Thank you so much, gentlemen. Good evening. Thank you for joining us on this, I'd say, rather interesting conversation because of the way it is impacting each one of us as professionals, as industry peers, and diverse set of industries as well. How technology is shaping our workplace and workforce, and that new ways of collaborating coming up, new opportunities creating because diverse teams are creating new ways of working, all of that. So at Economic Times, we are trying to do a series on how these changes are happening. And we've done this in Hyderabad, we've done this in Chennai, and now we are in Bangalore, speaking broadly on the same issue. But of course, try to make different themes in different places. Today we are in the tech capital of the country, clearly the tech capital of the country. And we're trying to make it a tech conversation. So in Chennai, we try to make it a youth conversation. And in Hyderabad, there was a different flavor to it. So we'll try and focus on the tech. And please feel free to come in with your opinion, your views, your thoughts. Let me start first and talk a little bit about the fundamental changes that are happening, the broader changes, which gives the opportunities. So if I may start, Arun, since Arun, or maybe Vijay, you've come just a little while ago. So maybe the broader picture, you're a very traditional company, but the way tech is evolving, it's giving you opportunities, you as a company, and also showing the way to other companies and industries. How is tech impacting your work practices and the workforce that you run?
So basically, I would say ABB has moved away being a traditional company, to be frank. Now if you see the branding of ABB, we started with the change of branding with ABB with ability. So which means that we are going towards the smart products, from products to smart products. So that change has happened. Now we are, if you see now, from ABB perspective, the tech is something unavoidable. Even though we are in the core manufacturing section and also with the projects and automation. So we have divisions which focus only on automation. So which means the tech is part and parcel of this. Now we have products division where we have transformed all products into smart products. Next, whatever we are doing in terms of the locations. So we are moving from manufacturing locations like factories to smart factories. Now the digital factories. So smart digital actually is a thin line of difference, but still goes in the way. Next, we are also moving from the way of when we convert into, then we are also improving our install base in terms of ensuring that we get business through this tech. So now when we make a smart product, we get also an install base and we get a service contract by itself associated with it because we monitor the product. So there is a new line of business that is emerging over here. Next, so that's from the business side that if you see. But if you see from an workplace perspective, workplace for ABB will be categorized into many areas. Like for example, if you see from a manufacturing segment, that's also a workplace for us, wherein previously a service engineer has to go and visit the customer premises. Now the service engineer sits in ABB offices and delivers the service to the customer. Basically, they go, they diagnose the issue or the latest technologies, and then they deliver the solution. So that's one a step forward in terms of adapting technology and utilizing the technology. Then the second thing in terms of if you see the workflows for within the offices. So now this is a clear like a manufacturing workforce who supports the manufacturing businesses. So for all of them, now they will be able to sit in their places and can get what's happening in the factories. So that's called the factory to digital factory. So they will have a dashboard of what's happening in my ex Nelmangla location on a given day. How many orders are getting processed, what is being done. No need to ask anybody. We have developed a smart dashboards for it. So one is a product level change. Second, we have done a change in terms of for servicing the customer. Third, we have done change in terms of monitoring the factories. Now, next come to the fourth level where we are seeing the real workforce who are actually the entire supports ecosystem. So that we always introduce all the teams, co-pilots and all these things of the world that is coming up. Fifth one, we also have a set called R&D Center, which also hosts a 3,000 plus employees, which is the think tank for ABB. So there also, again, they focus more on the technology, how we can associate a single product with a technology, latest technology. So the adaptation is there. So there my interface is different. Next, fifth section is shared services, basically the GCCs of thing. So India being in India, we support across entire world, entire finance processes, we support the HR processes, and we support the supply chain processes. So if you see that the tech for us is like now it's like a blend. So I can't say that, we are in the traditional company. So we moved away from that.
That's very well put and very interesting, the way it has evolved. And that is largely the theme that we are trying to talk about. Arun, you focus on helping the ecosystem drive in this digital world. Give us a sense of how that is impacting each company, not just here, maybe others as well.
Definitely. I think from the vantage point of what Altimetrik does in terms of building platforms for a complete ecosystem, I think the way we are seeing tech and the workforce collaborate obviously has changed quite a bit, and it continues to change. I think at a macro level, we clearly see a convergence of 4 S's, as we call it. On one side, you have the advantages of speed and scale. You talk about high compute power, you talk about great ability by which everything gets processed fast. You also have the element of scale where you have, for example, a lot of data, and the data continues to proliferate, if you will. So you do have those advantages of speed and scale that is coming up on the technology front. But we are also seeing an ecosystem buffeted by 2 clear challenges. One is definitely separation, and when I talk about separation, I'm talking about hybrid work models, workforce not essentially coming to work and so on. And then the second challenge is that of security. Because it's not just privacy, it's security. You've got to make sure that whatever you've got cannot be compromised in any way. So the convergence, if you were to ask me, I think is about how do I amplify the advantages of speed and scale and minimize the disadvantages of separation as well as security. And from that standpoint, we clearly see across the entire ecosystem, organizations are very much focused on ensuring that the right kind of collaboration tools exist. The way by which employees are able to come together on a design, on a build, on a scale, etc., are absolutely done. And at the same time, they are looking at models which are hybrid models, where technology is an augmenter and an accelerator to productivity improvements. And I'm sure we'll talk more about it subsequently.
Sure. So that gets me to maybe Saskin and talk about that same flavor. Again, your customers are all over. And how is that human and tech augmentation happening? I like the word you use, tech as an augmenter of sorts. Can you explain that, please?
Yeah. So as you said, in Saskin, we have customers across the globe and in India as well. And our teams are distributed again across centers. And so collaboration is key. We need to collaborate within and collaborate with our clients. And when we talk about collaboration, again, it is the complete life cycle. Ours is an industry where we serve the entire gamut of the software development life cycle. So in the entire life cycle, whatever are the different functions that are there, we use collaboration tools and effectively have to use it. And coupled to this, there is a business side of it wherein we need to ensure that our engineering processes and the business processes integrate. Because there are traditionally tools available for business processes on one side, but from a collaboration point of view, they are not the best tools probably. And so what we in our experience, we have done is many attempts. And the last one which we did was to integrate a homegrown tool, which is for our business process, engineering process, and that was integrated with the ERP system. So in effect, we tried to make the life of the end employee very easy. So they do their job, data it flows into various systems, and the dashboards and reports are available. So this is in brief.
Sure.
Maybe I've answered your.
Sure. So we'll keep getting to more details. Sure. Titan, as we were discussing, more traditional as a company. That is the way it has been, 40 years young. But now it's very distinctly driven by a lot of digital technologies, and the way you're trying to introduce processes. What is that opportunity that you see? I mean, the pace at which the company is growing, well, it's very well known in the numbers.
Right, the opportunities are actually multidimensional and potentially unlimited, and I'll explain. So if you look at collaboration, just try to abstract it, the way we are looking at it. First of all, hybrid, like Arun mentioned, right? And so therefore enabling people to be working in person together as well as virtually. And to have nearly the same quality, no matter what. Secondly, integrated. And so therefore, people right across the value chain. And we are a company that designs, manufactures, ships, sells and services across the globe now, not just India, but with thousands of points of presence across India itself today. And thirdly, who can ignore the infusion of intelligence into all this, right? I mean, with AI shaping up the way it is, the hybrid and integrated collaborative platforms need to be able to enable that infusion of contextual intelligence at the right point. And again, to quote Arun, to augment the human participants. So we are looking at this from all these perspectives. And to just give you an example, we have customers, for example, who want to be able to create their own bespoke jewelry for a personal event, a wedding perhaps, and they're willing to pay the premium. So can we remotely, collaboratively co-design what they would like to see, right? The conversation is ideally best conducted in person with the family because it's such a personal event. But is it possible to do a hybrid conversation? Which is,
family also needs to collaborate.
I mean, there are exactly, right? So you can assume that there is the intent to collaborate from all parties, no doubt about it. It's a big event, very often a wedding, right? And so, therefore, what can technology do to facilitate that process while still maintaining the magic of the interaction, right? But as you know, we are multiple divisions, multiple businesses, and so therefore we have to touch eye care, which is actually not retail but techno-retail, right? We are fulfilling a quasi-medical need here. And so therefore, while we know that remote eye testing is still away, how can we enable and infuse technology and intelligence into the in-person process, right? Including the selection of the frame, the selection of the lens, so on and so forth. So if you examine this right from the design team who would usually be headquartered in 3 or 4 places to our millions of customers who visit thousands of touch points and how to integrate all those interactions, right? So a customer walks into a store, let's say family from West Bengal, Bengali family walks into a Chennai store and wants to see wedding jewelry. Very unlikely that a Chennai store will have the stock for that part of the country. But using virtualization, it's certainly possible to showcase that we do have it and to get a wedding jewelry expert who might be based in Kolkata to speak with this Chennai family on the video in Bengali, right? So at least the customer knows that Titan Tanishq has the products they are looking for, and so therefore we are not out of consideration right away, right? So I mean, I could go on and on, but multiple possibilities, and for each of them, obviously, solutions of perhaps a different flavor. We also have an engineering automation company, Teal, within our group, and so AutoCAD, just to name one technology, which I mean, I would like to avoid brand names, but AutoCAD is so big in this space. They are also trying to move with the times, infuse intelligence, virtualization is built into their platform. So they are also enabling multi-location engineering collaboration through their platforms, right? So many examples.
Okay, so from a pretty much similar old traditional company in the kitchenware space, consumer space, what is that opportunity that you're seeing? And again, your niche is very well established.
Absolutely. So, thanks. To connect with Mr. Krishnan, I could see that we have customers ranging from some 70 plus years old to might be the new millennials, Gen Zs, like 18 years or 20 years. As soon as they are in their college or away from home, they are also cooking themselves. So we have a wide range of customers. So I would like to connect some 6 stakeholders here.
Okay.
The stakeholders are starting from customers, since we are there, since customers are there. So customers, the widespread ranging from 20 years to close to 80 years. You can imagine the age-old granny never used to change the utensils or vessels. Still, it's a heritage and possession. You would have seen in your home. I'm also seeing. So they want to keep that as preserving these products. At the same time, we have to make them to aware about on a particular cycle. They have to change the product, and then there are new innovations are happening on the product that we have to bring in. So engaging with this set of widespread of people right from 20 years to 80 years is a challenge as well as it's an opportunity. So how we can do that? It's whether it's a sales or service, either side we have to see. So we are engaging through this set of people, and especially when we are talking about age world, whether it is an employee or the customers, since we have widespread of this spectrum of people, we have to balance the technology. Okay, although we are 70 plus years of existence, what it requires for new age of set of people, it might not suit for aged people. So we have to see that how to balance that, and it's very tricky and challenging that we are doing when we are engaging with various segment of people that we are doing in different ways. So which means that our legacy process also continues. We are not fully digitalized. Okay, we are giving that option to both segment of people. So someone wants to continue the way how they want to continue. Still we have our call center, it is in operation. For others, we have WhatsApp channel for registering their service requirements. And those who want to walk into a store and then feel that experience, so every store has a little experience zone, they are doing that. And those new age people, they want to take up through omni-channel or direct to consumer route kind of a thing, they can do. So we are giving that option. We cannot wipe it out since these products are 70 plus years of existence. So it goes hand in hand. When it comes to service, I would like to give some information that during the pandemic days, people, they were trying for buying more and more products. Unfortunately, we don't have products available in our warehouses. So they try to take up at least to service it and extend the life of the product. So they cannot come out. So we have started van service, maybe first of its kind in the industry, in our industry. And then on seeing the success, we changed our business model, and then now we have close to around 80 to 90% of our products are home service. We remodeled our service, and you know that since service is one of the essential ingredient in our product, so we remodeled everything and then used the digitalization to see that The services today, 90% of the product categories are covered with home services. Many innovations have happened, and certainly we might be the first one in our industry to do all this, to bring it that this is possible very much with the technology. And coming to the next segment, that is about employees. Here also we have the similar case that we have employees who have joined from the college in their early 20s and those who have already crossed 55 plus. So it's very challenging in India that making people to adapt to the digital technologies. So we always emulate a story saying that when they are away from office, they are well versed with the social media as well as the same employee. So we narrate a story to give a confidence that how they are UPI, by the way. They are well versed to UPI, they are using WhatsApp, they are using everything. So we have given the confidence to all these employees, and then we picked up the champions, and then the transformation started there. Coming to the management. So here also, as you know that with the legacy, we were having people ranging from 40 years and then 60, close to 60 years, making them the digital, bringing in digitalization, bringing the intelligence, how to make use of the intelligence. So we have various success stories by championing them, each one among their group, and then make the story success, and then the adoption started.
Super.
Same way for the stakeholders like shareholders. So the shareholders also, we used to have earlier, the AGMs used to happen or interaction used to happen. They want to have a physical presence, and with the COVID pandemic, there also we have brought in, and then now we are continuing with the virtual medium of conferencing. So
okay.
all these are happening.
We'll come to that part.
So all the stakeholders are covered, and then in some areas, of course, we are continuing with the legacy method as well as the latest method, and this is going to continue to give the comfort. End of the day, the user and customers are important for us, and then to see that both are succeeding in their own means.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So maybe and start using the legacy technology.
Absolutely, and there are few. Age doesn't matter. Okay, there are various people, they are well versed with the technologies. In fact, I used to tell a story that my mom learnt everything from my son. So she wants to be a digital naive kind of a thing. So that way, yeah, many are getting converted. It will phase out over a period of time.
And you know, the cooking of the grandmother or the mom, every age you'll enjoy, or whatever flavors they add to it. Mandar, coming to you now. I'll come to both of you because more new age companies. I'm only confining to Biocon Biologics, right? The wider Biocon story, of course, it's slightly older story, but still. You're going to impact, your work is going to impact in a very big way in the coming years. But you've also become a classic distributed company the way you are. Give us a sense of how it has been and how different is it if you can compare to the traditional Biocon that we've known.
Yeah, so Biocon Biologics develops biosimilar products of very complex biomolecules, which are like monoclonal antibodies and things like that, which are for cancer, oncology, diabetology, and ophthalmology, and those areas. Now, the technology that is used to produce these molecules is very, very cutting edge. So even though we are creating biosimilar products, the entry barrier to create that is very, very difficult. And as a result, we have to rely on a lot of cutting edge science, molecular biology, and a lot of different types of science and technology fields. What we've realized is that the COVID 2-year pandemic phase, the people who are joining us now as scientists and engineers have not for 2 years really attended classrooms, right? So, I mean, they have learned everything online, and now they expect a similar experience at the workplace. They don't want to come to office, whereas Biocon as a company has been work from office throughout, even during the pandemic, because we were producing medicines that were required for the patients during that time. But now we are suddenly faced with a workforce that is not really willing to come to office. We can't have that, and that is truly a challenge which obviously digital technologies can solve. We are doing a lot of online collaborations and things like that, but nothing can replace a person standing in front of an instrument or an equipment that is used for manufacturing. And that is where I think virtual reality, mixed reality, augmented reality, these are the kind of technologies that I personally believe are things that can help us bridge that gap. Again, not taking a company name, but things like Vision Pro of Apple, if you look at that technology, that actually allows you to be in that space while you are collaborating with a number of different people. And those are the kind of technologies that we have started to check if we can use that. We have somebody from ABB here. We have ABB equipment in our manufacturing plants. But the ABB engineers are sitting somewhere in Germany or somewhere else all over the world. And we have engineers on the ground who have never seen that kind of an equipment because they never got to train on that. That is where we are using these kind of AR, VR technology that allows those engineers to actually collaborate with somebody who's far off. And they can actually see what this person at the site is seeing. So that kind of revolutionizes the way workplace is there for these kind of engineers now. And that is getting supported by technology like us. People have talked about Copilot everywhere, but in my personal view, Microsoft Teams, for example, is inseparable now for all of us. There are people who are attending 2 or 3 meetings at the same time. And the Copilot actually summarizes the meeting and gives you a summary, action items, what are the follow-up points for everyone. So that is the way technology is revolutionizing the way work happens on a day-to-day basis. And the last part is, it is still, we have one leg in the past and one leg in the future, right? So we still are a medical products tech company. So we have to meet regulatory requirements. Anything that we do has to be done in a measured form because every product that we produce is a life-altering product for the patient. So there are still a lot of places where paper-based technology is used, and paper is around for 1,000+ years. The moment you replace that with a digital technology, a tablet or something else to write on, there are several layers of technology. So it's not just a tablet that the end user uses, unlike the paper. There is the networks, Wi-Fi network is required, servers are required, storage is required, cyber security is required, the user interface is required. So many different layers of technology are required. And that actually poses a challenge for the cost of implementation of these technologies. So while the workplace is evolving into more digital, cost of replacing of a pen and paper with a digital technology is tremendous. And I think that is a key challenge that most companies are now facing to see how we can sustain these technologies, how do we invest and get the funds required to do the digital transformation. Because it is inevitable, but it is quite expensive. Yeah.
So you very interestingly set it up for Harish because that's the thing we were talking. You were just referring to. The insurance part, physically nobody would have read. I'm not sure how much read digitally either, but it at least gives you an option that you can search or by keywords what you want. You've changed the entire process in the 25 odd years that life insurance has turned to private companies in the country. What does it mean for reaching that larger mass which India is still deprived of using digital technologies?
Yeah. So fortunately for ACKO, we were born in the internet age, right? So we don't essentially carry a lot of baggage of not having to transform from something else to something else. Technology for ACKO is a leverage. It's not a challenge, right? So we use technology very differently and all the 3 aspects. So 3 aspects of, we're a D2C company, you'll never see an ACKO office anywhere, right? So we live on a surface area that is closer to the customer's newer interaction pattern, which is essentially on the web and on the app, right? So an insurance business is all about trust building. It's not like you look at a phone, you like it, you buy it. It's the other way around, right? It's a product that needs to be explained well, understood well. The buying cycles are quite longer, right? For example, a motor insurance buying cycle is probably, it's expiring, police pakadegi, let's go and buy it, right? There's an impulsive, not impulsive, need to buy it. But when you consider health, it's a slightly longer term buying cycle. You'll consider, hey, how old am I? How old is my spouse? What is my family structure? Are the kids young? Is there a family history of, say, some certain disease? Have you, whatever, right? It takes a longer buying cycle. So in the minds of the customers, the thought process is running. Your product needs to appropriately also suit that. So this is where technology plays a very different role. There's an explainability of the product to the customers, which today is a challenge. Nobody today can really understand all the clauses that are there in their insurance policy. I don't know if anybody else has ever read their insurance policy completely. But when the need arises, how does the customer really get the benefit of buying the right kind of a product, right? How is he or she saying, hey, you know what, I have explained well, I have bought well, and now when it needs, I have what I need. Life insurance is a far more longer game. So customers consider the buying cycle is far more larger, because here you're not around when the claim is happening, right? Somebody else is benefiting from it. So the trust factor on buying a life insurance is much, much longer. So if technology is not the leverage, the alternative is very bad, right? Traditionally, it used to be an agent known for the family, grandfather knows, father knows, son knows, right? They feel that the guy does right by the families, and most people do, by the way, right? But the incentive is a lot more different, and the D2C's products incentive is a lot more different, right? So we have a service cycle, which is probably the longest cycle of buying an insurance. You buy, say, health insurance when you're 25, you start working, your company buys insurance, you say, I also will go and buy. You service it till 75, right? There's a long 50-year servicing cycle of that policy once bought. That's the largest leg of what we do. Then there's a production side of it. How do we produce that particular insurance? Where there's a lot of data going behind. How do I know that the propensity of a South Indian family who shifted to North India, eating a North Indian diet, what is the propensity of diabetes at the age of 40? It's absolutely mind-boggling when you consider the 100-odd parameters that a person's health is dependent upon. So it's a large amount of data science sitting behind it. So their technology is definitely a leverage. The second part is, since we're a D2C company, the way we produce the product, a lot of technology is leveraged. Because the surface area of what we produce reaches the customer is fully on the digital platform, right? The way we manufacture it, the way we market it, the way customers understand the product, explainability of that particular product, pricing of that particular product, right? No two people will get the same price because no two people are the same.
And the regulatory angle to it, that's another complex.
There's a regulatory angle to that angle. And by the way, I should really commend the government. The regulatory angle to now is not so very strict. They've also moved to 2024, by the way. Yeah. So very recently now, it's a use and file. It used to be file and use. It used to take 5 years to explain the product to the government. Now it says you figure out, you do it, more or less you'll do it good. Let us know when it's done, right? I think it's a very big leverage to all technology companies, who are digitally first, because we can produce products every day, right? And then if you get it right by the customer, I think the regulator is more than happy because I'm benefiting the end customer, today. I can today sell specific covers, right? I can sell a cataract cover to the left eye if you want, right? And that's still possible for us. So in our world, technology is a big leverage in production of the product, distribution of the product. Distribution for us is just a click of a button, right? The moment I surface it on the app or on the site, all the 1.4 billion people in India can access it, right? I don't have a distribution problem. My distribution is handled by the internet, is handled by the cheap data usage that Indians are used to today. And everybody has a good enough phone where they can download an app, experience it, and when people are digitally savvy now, right? 15 years ago, I would not have imagined buying an iPhone on Flipkart. Who's going to pay 1.5 lakhs to a company that doesn't even have a store, wait for 3 days, and be sure that it's going to be delivered at my doorstep?
Well,
people are used
so many
to it
other
today.
things as well. I mean,
absolutely.
Homes are being marketed online.
Absolutely.
Farmers are buying motors for their farms.
Correct.
Online.
Correct. So when we connect this, and by the way, we have ACKO Drive, which is a very interesting concept. Not many people know about it. You can buy a car online on ACKO today. Yeah, not many people know this. You can, once you buy it, you are insured, and we service it via our own network. We have ACKO Garage that actually services the entire car, and you can sell it on our platform. All of this, the only physical thing you need to do is drive the car yourself, which probably in 2 to 3 years down the line, maybe somebody else will also do it, which makes it even better because, my claim ratio is going to go down if somebody, if the system is driving it. But the point being, there are physical touch points, like you really need to go to a hospital to get service, right? That cannot be digital, not yet. There's a claims angle to it, right? And here is where we leverage technology very differently. Today, when a customer ends up in a hospital and they need the insurer to be with them, how quickly can I tell the customer, you're covered, I'm going to do it? It used to take at least about a day in the past, right? Somebody is sending a folio, it's coming to the insurance company, somebody is reading it, somebody is saying, oh, this is covered, not covered, oh, this is not covered, oh, that syringe is not covered, etc. Today, we do it in less than about 15-20 minutes. Because we use the entire series of technology from there, it digitally lands on MySpace. I read the document, even handwritten documents with 99% accuracy. It goes into my system, checks whether it is covered, not covered. Can we do something for that particular customer? Put it back onto the network. It goes, and then you prepay the customer and say, you're all good, go ahead. So this leverage across the entire spectrum, purchasing it, manufacturing it. Again, there's a lot of engineering leverage on technology. We could do that later because it's a very long conversation, by the way, and I'm quite sure other people will chime in. Then the servicing angle to it, and marketing, of course, has changed a lot. Right? SEO has changed a lot after Gen AI. We produce content like in minutes today. For example, if there is flu happening in Koramangala, immediately you will see the related content on the ACKO website. Yeah, because it's the generating that content, putting it on SEO today is all, again, you need to know how to leverage the technology, right? And us being like I said, we're born in that era. Our teams are very small, by the way. You know, we are probably one of those companies where our size of business is disproportionate to the size of people we have, right? Our investments are a lot more on the tooling side rather than, on having larger team sizes, etc. So it's a very orthogonal view to leveraging technology. But I think we're doing good.
Okay, that's wonderful to hear. So Abhishek, the broader picture, so even the traditional company, well, I still call it a traditional company, is going service way, where technology is being leveraged. Even the new age company, and I love the way you put it, one leg in the past and one in the future, that needs a liberal dose of technology and something like this. What is that broad construct at the workplace that's changing, which is driving this?
So I think everybody made very pertinent points about hybrid, and we have more or less understood that hybrid is here to stay. What COVID did 4 years back is make people realize that online is the way to not only surf and do your personal stuff, but it's also the way to work, right? So the number of active users who were actually using Teams, for example, was very, very low before COVID. And suddenly within a week's time or maybe 10 days time, as soon as the COVID hit, it hit almost in terms of lakhs, right? The number of active users. Additional applications which we earlier used to use are no more, in play now. So now we have all applications like Teams and Zoom and Google and everything else. This is what is more or less consumed or deployed at most of the organizations, I'm sure, right? Many people say Teams, not only at a personal level, but also at, people when they interact and collaborate with other employees, stakeholders, external clients and all that. What has happened is that the adaptability of technology has increased, right? But what it also meant during COVID and maybe after COVID is that people were starting to work from home. Now, the kind of experience that I get working from office was not available at home, right? And people were giving budgets to get equipments when they were working from home, right? Now, when they returned back to office, they were expecting the same kind of tools. But unfortunately, because nobody had predicted this online consumption to increase, the tools at that point of time were not really great. But slowly, what has evolved now is people have started realizing that you need to consume tools or you need to have tools which are preferred by users. An IT team or facilities or somebody from that, you just cannot impose a tool or impose a technology to employees, right? So people talk about millennials, I mean probably we are from that era, but then we have Gen Zs and Gen Ys and everything else today, right? So which means that can you give them anything and will they be willing to use that? No, the point has changed. Somebody mentioned WhatsApp. Today I want something which is as easy as WhatsApp, right? And when I enter into a room, and for example, I do a collaboration, do I need something which is very complex? Do I need something which needs to be taught by somebody? No. I want something which is simple. I want something which can be, started in a jiffy. So what I'm trying to impress you upon is, the fact is that the complexity is out of it. And people want things which are more simple. And when things are simple, the life of the, the IT teams or the facilities teams becomes that much more easier because they don't have anybody else to always be there at the, at outside the room. Okay, something fails in the room and the meeting goes down. What do we need to do? Okay. So, organization like us, for example, and many organizations like who believe in taking the complexity out of it, the adaptability increases, and obviously the tools are very, very important, right? You also mentioned about people working in geographically distributed workplaces. Your clients are working in geographically distributed workplaces, different applications, different time zones and all that. You obviously need tools which would all support this. And, there was a time when people were leaving their job because people were asked to come back to office. Now, employee retention, for example, is one of the biggest challenges if you ask any HR today, right? Collaboration between people in different time zones and all that. So, how do you ensure this is something which is one of the biggest challenges which we are trying to solve from our side? And I feel that, going ahead, a lot of technology is getting inbuilt in the system, which means it is no more a hardware, but the hardware will have a lot of intelligence. So which means when I walk into a room, technology takes over. I'm no more worried about, whether the system is going to capture me, whether I will be, a part of the meeting, do I feel inclusive and immersive or not, right? The technology takes over. But one important thing which has come out of this is the video first culture. I think people have realized that you need to be on video, and that's the best thing apart from actually being
video. The world is going video because everyone seems to be consuming that. To the broader point that you've made, I would imagine pretty much there for you as well. But given the complexity, sorry, I thought I'd just introduce him here at this point. Okay. So because of the diversity of products that you have, how difficult is it to make it simple? And simple will probably drive some of those changes.
Well, we have to operate in different contexts, right? So what works in, for example, watches and wearables may not work in eye care. So common platform apart, functionality has to be designed for that particular division. Now, if you take eye care, for example, every prescription spectacle is custom made for you. So it's not off the shelf at all. So therefore, there's a whole process of manufacturing for n is equal to 1. Whereas a watch, you go to the store, pick it up, wear it, at the most you adjust the strap, right? But you have picked up a finished product. So therefore, naturally, things have to change based on context, right? Short answer. I can go really long on this. I'm sure all of us can, actually.
I just wanted to temper this whole conversation. There's a lot of positivity and hype around technology, digital, etc. But you have to understand that when you take out complexity and try to make things simple, you're taking out complexity and not evaporating it. You're putting it somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
Essentially, now that system has become complex, whatever we do, and the points of failure increase in that system. So if it is not available, now everyone is relying on digital technology to even do the basic things that they never needed all of that. So you just have a meeting like this. If it was a virtual meeting, all of us, and somebody drops off, my mic is not working, my this is not.
Or CrowdStrike happens.
God forbid. Imagine, it's so disruptive the moment something like that goes wrong in the technology, that you cannot do the work that you were normally able to do otherwise. So it is that critical. So it cannot be taken lightly on, just implement technology and your life becomes simple. It is, you're basically taking that complexity out to some other place, and you have to plan for managing that complexity somewhere else. And that is something that a lot of people, take it in their stride, and they feel that, okay, let's do digital and we are done. So I just wanted to bring that angle of this, because we are the ones on the IT side managing this technology, right? So it's not like you have taken it out and nobody else has to manage it. We have to manage it. So we have to plan for managing that also.
That is where the education to the user, right, about the benefits of technology and the way of using it. As he was mentioning about new generation is able to easily use. And in fact, that is the challenge that the solution providers, product developers have, to make the product as easy to absorb, as easy to learn and use. But in spite of that, in terms of using it effectively for our job, whatever it is intended to, I think there is a lot of education required to the users. And that is when they are ready to switch, because nobody wants to change their way of working. Like if you think of pre-COVID days, right? If I go back to my own organization's example, we are into developing software for embedded systems, which is along with a desktop PC, there is an attached hardware. And this goes together for every engineer. And it was thought that we cannot do it remotely. It was a big challenge at least. So during COVID, I just wanted to share this experience. We could not stop working. And so one thing first we did was to ship those hardware boards to the respective developers who were wherever they were. But of course, this has constraints, we can imagine. Then we reached a situation where we had to share a board. So we went to the extent of keeping the board in the office and trained the security person who is always there in the office to do certain operations on the board, which otherwise normally we operate through the PC, but we have to press the board, press the some button, right? So to that extent, innovation was required. And taking another example, pre-COVID, if those organizations which had not moved to collaboration platforms would have had a big struggle to operate during the COVID time. Right? So I think organizations also have to think ahead and look beyond the comfort zone. Of course, I fully appreciate Mandar's point about the challenges in using it. Not only about that, in fact, there are issues which can crop up because of casual usage without education. But in spite of that risk, organizations need to be ahead so that in terms of contingencies when it occurs, then we are better prepared with the tools and technologies, at least as visible today.
So I would like to add, thanks for reminding that without technology during just before or during the pandemic, we wouldn't have been possible to give the confidence by our management team to 40,000 plus dealers through virtual medium. Okay, so that wouldn't have been possible. Always previous to that, we used to address zone wise and then going and meeting this community. If we wouldn't have that collaboration platform through technology, certainly it wouldn't have been not possible to give that confidence, since no one was knowing about what it is going to happen in the next few months. So whether we are going to survive or whether businesses are going to survive. So that way, it's a big paradigm shift. And one more thing, today's millennials, whether it is a customer or an employee, they always prefer to have some personalization. They prefer that. That's very important. And they don't want to have one size fits all kind of a thing. They want to explore something, experiment kind of a thing. So that way, technology helps, be it our website for commerce website or brand website, where they can fine tune and then they can place the orders, they can deep dive into the products, attributes and understand about the products. All these wouldn't have been possible if we don't have that kind of a collaborative technology. And Mr. Krishnan also was mentioning about speaking in their own vernacular language, and then that gives a comfort to the customers. One more thing is, in today's millennials, especially employees, I am seeing that they don't require any IT team members to support them. They hesitate that. They want to experiment and see that if any small problems or anything, they want to fix that on their own. So that gives some kind of a proud moment for them that I am a tech savvy guy, I know everything. So this goes, and then that self-service technology only can only support. Otherwise we require, someone was mentioning that somebody has to be next to the conference room, always there to support the people when they are in a conference mode.
I agree. I've said this before, I should mention it here as well. I used to always wonder whether the Wi-Fi industry is selling more than provisioning. And I'm so glad that during the early days of COVID, the whole thing actually worked way better than I had expected. So clearly that industry is done at least way better than I had thought they would in terms of provisioning. I mean, things didn't fail.
Yeah.
All our colleagues were connected
Sure.
pretty easily.
I'll just make a quick point on
Sure.
what you said actually is, in terms of personalization and customization. I think a lot of organizations are today not laying focus on things like ergonomics, for example, health and safety, for example, right? I'm sure a lot of organizations need to lay stress, and these are something which are very customized, right? I mean, just take an example, you will have a lot of employees who are coders in nature or programmers in nature, or, people who sit before monitors and laptops for a very, very long period of time, right? Now, if you give them the same tools for, the people who are not sitting for long terms and who are mobile in nature, somewhere that is unfair, because they will need very complete different set of tools, right? So, say for example, somebody who is a coder or a programmer, if he sits for a long period of time and using the same peripherals, it causes a lot of discomfort, for example, right? And over a period of time, that becomes a health issue, right? So probably his needs will be very different from somebody who is mobile in nature or somebody, who doesn't sit for long period of time. So even the tools that you are providing or this thing obviously needs to be thought out very differently and, needs to be stressed to that angle.
Personalization of the consumer and personalization of the employee.
Now, for years, we have had this automatic message coming at the bottom right of our laptops. I'm sure many others also have it. Get up, stretch,
Oh, yeah.
right? And there are senior colleagues who have come to me and said, Krishnan, I'm taking this laptop to a presentation and this thing comes up. I said, I'm not the owner, the health and safety team is the owner. If they say yes, then it can be removed. And we don't, right? It just appears no matter where we are. Now, I actually asked for an ergonomic assessment of our digital colleagues, and there were several chairs and tables that are actually changed as a result. So, absolutely. Collaboration, digital age, health, safety and ergonomics, very, very important aspect.
Okay, that also gets me to the point of getting that workforce ready. As organizations go through their own, evolve, their digitally the way they do, what are some of those best practices would you like to share? Maybe you could start and then we can go around. What should be the way companies should look at? One point that you mentioned, for example, ergonomics. But companies would like to do the core training so that their messaging and ultimately their culture can be positively impacted.
Yeah, I think I was briefly touching upon this point about education. See, the question is, what is in it for me? I mean, anything you introduce, any change, people ask this. So, education is the only, the key solution. And the moment you do that, then people try to understand, learn the way to use it, or even if there are challenges, they work around the challenges, innovate, find ways of using the system in spite of those, the lack of flexibility and so on. So I think the key is making people aware what is it that they get out of this and training them on it effectively. That could be the solution.
Sure.
Maybe others
Sure.
can add
Any
in.
other views on that? Yeah, please, Arun.
So I think we'll probably slightly longer one as well in terms of how we have thought about it, right? So at the core, we are an engineering company, right? So, and for us, the way we would like to engage with our workforce, we've thought about it as let everything be experiential. And when we are talking about that, we are talking it right from the point of when we want to reach out to the market and we hire, all the way until the way they continue to upskill themselves, right? So one part is very clear. We're talking about collaboration tools, messaging tools, task management tools. That goes without saying. Absolutely, that is there. But the part that I'm highlighting a little bit more is about how do they engage with us as a company. So, for example, we actually have what we call as Altimetrik Dex, which is a digital experience app, employee experience app that actually can be downloaded on the Play Store or on the App Store today. And this is if you are a candidate, you are not even an employee. So you can go out there, download the app, and from there on, our entire journey of how we want to interact with you can be appified, if you will. Right from the conversations the meetings that need to be scheduled, the interviews that need to be scheduled, and so on and so forth. All of that pretty much happens through the app. Of course, there is a conversation with with a talent acquisition specialist. But the point is, if we have to go to an engineer who is probably a Gen Z and potentially a Gen Alpha very soon, then we will have to have that kind of a conversation. Now, that's fine, but I'm going to borrow probably, Krishnan, what you will talk about when omni-channel or phygital. Eventually, that's going to happen. Now comes the time when the candidate comes to our organization for an interview, and we've consciously taken a call that if we have to have that conversation from beginning to end, it has to be concluded in one day. Multiple rounds of conversations ought to happen, because again, engineering, what are we trying to do over here? We are going to test an engineer on their platform building capabilities, on their data analytics capabilities, and on their data science capabilities. And we typically want to say, okay, we've actually, as part of that phygital environment, physically during COVID, every office of ours, we've got a dedicated workspace that we call the playground. We remodeled that entire workspace to say we are going to create whiteboarded spaces, round tables, completely open-ended. And the idea is the candidates come in over there and we give them multiple places to sit in, and they are given a problem to solve. And the problem that you have to solve is not a conversation, but it's actually got to be a code that you write to make an application run. There's a coffee machine on one side, music on the other. But the point is that over the course of that 1 hour period, you're trying to build a product. And that's ultimately what we want to test. Mentors who are essentially altimetrians go and sit next to them when they are stuck. Because the idea is not to get a gotcha moment. The idea is to see what is their thought process. And in that thought process, can we add something? Can we learn something as well? And that is an experience in itself in terms of their interview process. Of course, there's a conversation later on, and at the end of the day, our intent is to issue a letter of intent. We don't issue an offer letter only because we need to do a background verification check. There's nothing else that stops us from making out an offer letter over there. Now the employee joins, and again, as I said, there are collaboration tools, but during their tenure with us, they want to learn, which means you're talking about skilling, you're talking about gamification, and so on and so forth, micro-learning programs and micro-learning platforms that we have to think about. So for us, experiential involvement from an engineer perspective is what that matters. Obviously powered by DEX, as I said, but the broader point is about the fact that right from the time a person is hired or to be hired, subsequently onboarded, and subsequently skilled, we believe technology, through this experiential involvement, goes a long way in stickiness. And we have actually seen, in terms of employees staying with us, we have been able to engage with them a lot more effectively, and our attrition rates are fairly comfortable from that standpoint when compared to industry benchmarks.
Super.
So that's our view.
Yeah, I was just going to come to you. Yeah, please.
I have a maybe slightly less popular opinion on this, right? We talk a lot about this pre-pandemic collaboration, etc. Maybe it amplified, but this was always there. As an engineer, especially a software engineer or developer, Linux, which is the world's largest operating system collaboration platform, open source, has been there for 30 years. People across 150 countries have contributed to one fantastically running code base. None of them have ever sat with each other. Probably they don't even meet up with each other. Probably for except a couple of people are sitting here and there. All engineers, especially, and here I'm talking about software, of course, and the manufacturing probably is a lot more different, right? Hence, it's my point.
Far more complex.
Far more complicated, for sure. I don't think you can have two machines sitting together in parts of it here and there and working together. I'm quite sure that doesn't exist yet. So software specifically and internet technologies, right, this existed. So even today, if you look at the entire Apache world, everything is driven by collaborating engineers sitting across multiple geographies, and always the best software has come out. You can today rely on the Java machine with zero glitches. Hundreds and billions of lines of code are running on it without any issues. So this collaboration has been happening. So it's not new. Maybe the pandemic brought it to other people who didn't work like this, but this has been there for a while. People have been contributing on one product across the globe. It's been there. No Zoom existed. 25 years ago when I did Linux programming, no Zoom existed. We didn't have anything. We used to use chat rooms and telnet. I don't know if people are. So they were collaboration, but not effectively, this email. Yeah, email wasn't very different. We had dialer modems where I used to wait for the modem to come up, right? So collaboration has been around. Maybe the pandemic brought it to people who didn't use it very effectively. So it's a slightly different opinion. It has accelerated how you can collaborate. Right? Even today, the product building is also a lot more different, right? Again, when I say building the product, I mean
Democratization of collaboration. I
yeah,
don't know if
more or
I-
less. So more people are experiencing it now. Hence, the product is simplified, right? Number one. Number two is again, I think there is infrastructure today, which is technology, right? Today, nobody looks at electricity and says, what a technology, right? Because it's been there when they were born. Similarly, today, a lot of technology is infrastructure. The internet today is an infrastructure. You can rely on it as much as you can rely on the sun coming up the next day morning, right? So I don't think we should fret on tech being there, not being there, what's going to happen. There is already, lack of better word, making it at a very low level infrastructure, right? Today you can rely on mobile towers, you can rely on the internet, you can rely on servers running. People who had trouble moving from their own premises on-prem to the cloud have now realized that this is going to be there.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm quite sure, I mean, everybody here is running on cloud infrastructure. You assume that it's going to be there, irrespective of where you're running, what you're running, right?
RBI is also forcing banks to go
Absolutely, move there, right? I mean, so fretting on technology as a barrier to say, oh my God, it's going to happen, I think that is not true. Applications for sure, because applications are built by engineers, and as they age, they become better, stronger, provided there is motivation behind it, right? If I talk about an application that I built, of course I'm the only contributor developer on it. It's going to be as good or bad as an engineer I am, versus saying 50 people collaborating on a new piece of software that has absolutely come up. If you look at new technology frameworks, right? Multiple people contributing on one framework makes it very solid and robust. So I think it depends on the world you come from. If you are in a pure software world, collaboration, multi-geography, infrastructure, tech as infrastructure, I think are all solved problems, right? The problems are something very different.
I would like to add, I fully agree with what Harish has mentioned, but there are some challenges. See, you have imagined a situation where there is a project and there is a common platform and development method, and everybody is following that particular system and method. For example, Linux you mentioned, Linus Torvalds, even today I think he manages the kernel upgrades and so on. Now, we have a variety of customers, and each customer comes with their own requirements in terms of the development tools, the collaboration platforms. For example, I mean, it may be a very minute thing, but I think it's worth to mention that the ticket system that an organization, the vendor uses may be different from what the customer uses. But the customer wants to see the tickets in their system, the vendor wants to see the tickets in their own system, and there is a need for organizing this and so on. So there are challenges with maybe the non-product companies where they have to work with multiple this thing. But there are solutions, of course. The companies have found solutions and they have figured out a way to operate. And
very
problem I would like to.
No, absolutely fantastic. Look, I think he talked about democratization. The world is moving towards open protocols. Open protocol is for everything right now. There's a lot of legacy that is built in, right? For example, if you look at software that is built in a particular area, it is built to suit that geography for that set of customers. Something very different evolves somewhere else. And now due to this globalization of everything else, these two systems have to talk to each other. They can be done in two ways. You can either adapt to each other, or you both come on a common platform. We see this technology change happening across everything today. Today there are open protocols on everything. Everything, mail, Lotus 123 used to be very different protocol.
Yeah.
Right? Today we have open protocols in SMTP that everybody follows. HTTP is a different protocol. Today people have the random implementations of document services. Today identity is open protocol. So there's definitely, I think, still work to be done to answer your question, to say people who have been living in their own the point, in their wells, for example, they have come out now and they really have to look at this and say, oh, now I have to adopt. So this transformation is going to take some time, but companies, people, technology who are starting now, I'm quite sure will be perplexed to say, oh, did this even exist? Why is this even there, right? I mean, who made this, right? So the challenge of integration, as you say, is definitely there in small pieces, right? Like today, how does an AS400 connect to the internet? 99% people would not even know what an AS400 is.
So
right?
that gets me to a point, or to a wider issue, and I'd like, again, everyone to contribute. Maybe Mandar, you can start. We're talking of a multi-generational workforce. So the 50-year-olds, the 40-year-olds, and the 25, 28-year-olds. How do we make sure that the systems are geared to get every one of them to collaborate, talk to each other? They're like different protocols. And I'm just reminded, as I heard you, what Sony used to do, what Apple used to do, and today it's completely different.
Yeah, I think in a way, going back to what he said, Abhishek, about simplification, that is the key word. At the end of the day, technology is a great leveler. If you can actually get your grandmother to use Paytm to make payments, or to use Amazon to shop, it's the same platform that a Gen Z or a Gen Alpha person uses, right? Without any training whatsoever. I think at the end of the day, I think that is going to be the real differentiator of how we design technology to make it simple for all generations to adopt as equally and as easily. And that will bring everyone together in a lot of senses. But of course, the philosophies of people will be different, what they want, why they work, all that is different. But for them to be able to collaborate using technology, this is the key aspect of it.
Impacting business, is that the thought, the way you describe? I love the way you describe 5 or 6 principles which is driving you.
So in ABB, basically what we see is, first the punchline is more about ease of use. Gender difference, the type of users, internal, external, whatever it may be. There can be anything. So what we stress upon is the ease of use. So let's say, just an example, a meeting room like Logitech is here, we can say. The first thing is any person will use the meeting room. So we have a different age people who will come up and do, and we have an external customers to come up and use it. And we will also have a very important meetings to be handled, which is media focused, everything. But what exactly is the punch point? Can I design rooms like this? No, I cannot. So the punch point is ease of use. So we believe in a concept that we should use technology, but it should be in a way we can make it plug and play as much as we can. We cannot avoid fully, but as much as we can. So we did this experiment for our all the meeting rooms. We have around 400 plus meeting rooms across locations. So everywhere when the meeting is happening, the scenario was there should be an IT guy to come and stand and then help with this, all the VC games, or after the VC then the MTRs. But then meeting starts, a charger is not there, run for the charger. Oh, network is, Wi-Fi is unstable. Oh, this is unstable. So this is all complexity. So where we went onto the whiteboard, we said, what are the pain points that people can face? So we listed out. So now we give such a simple to use, we just give one C-type cable. Anybody coming, just plug it and use. So it will serve as a charger, it will serve as a network, as a, it's a basically network connect. Then it will also serve for me as a audio video input, and it will also serve for us in terms of remote monitoring of the device. So in this way, what happens at the end of the day, any person who is coming, he will just plug in that and use the meeting. Simple to use, and audio, everything is connected. So this is how we have done, and the docking stations are available. Now that's a technology. All technologies are infused into one and try to present. So this concept is what we have used it across. And now my management always uses best-in-class technology, and they're very easy to use, and no IT support standing behind. So that is a very important thing that we can say. So the same methodology we are trying to adapt in every area. At least let's say on a building management system. I have a core thinker sitting here in Bangalore in a corporate offices, but we want to control all the locations, everything in the best in class way. What's happening, how it's happening. So we have rolled out an internal BMS system, wherein all the buildings of ABB will be controlled, centrally monitored and governed from. So that's also another good initiative that we are running. So just to say, in terms of collaboration, driving workplace collaboration, all these things are the tools that we have to do. So as our friend is lightly saying, so first is this technology is there, but what I would like to stress is the mindset change has come. I can say. So what was there in the software industry, that mindset has gone to a regular user. So this mindset change is what is bringing up, and to add to that, the market is also bringing the tools which are simple and easy to use. So it would be our responsibility to tell to the market and ensure that we use this. Finally, before I close, just one more point on the usage, on the training that we have seen. While we have the trainings, like we have a specific HR training, these trainings, targeted trainings and all, but what is more important today, what is the need of the hour? Every day there is a new functionality coming. Outlook, Microsoft releases every time new functionality. Can I call every time come do the training? It is impossible. It will not be. So we have started basically with our group teams and everybody. There was a new initiative called IT tips. 1 tip a day. So one new functionality a day. So everybody in the company will get one IT tip a day, and if they have a patience, they can go and do. So self-learning is very important. There is no classroom kind of a learning. That is the only mode of learning. So that's also a technology evolution. Technology evolved. Adapting the technology is also the manner in which how we promote it. So that's also we use the technology. Second way that we also use the user education is in terms of a blogs that we write. And we also monitor the views.
Blogs? Who reads these days?
Yeah, but we do definitely monitor the number of views that are going onto the blog, and then we will also see. And the blogs, that's again the content writing matters. The manner you write a lengthy discussion, you lose the person. So that's also we say, whenever you are telling something, or whenever you are trying to articulate something, you start and stop. Don't give a continuous stop. So you summarize 1, 2. And so that the person will just scroll through and keep his interest there. So IT tips, at least the blogs that are there. And then third thing that we are doing is little bit more in terms of a digital champions of the location, where we train a particular IT help desk guy with all the new functionality that is coming, and when there is a user coming up or when they're coming up, he tells about, he solves his problem, but he also educates him there's a new functionality coming here. You can look, just 1 to 1. So at least with these 3 small steps, it looks small, but the impact it makes is too much big.
So I love to the point that you made, the way you explained. What occurred to me was the flexibility for. Sure.
Just take on this point, and sometimes you can be lucky and find a very, very sweet spot use case. So, right, and I'd like to cite the one which we were discussing a while ago. So in our iCare stores now, first few already live, and now it will roll out nationally. So when the optometrist is testing the customer, we'll be speaking aloud the prescription itself. Left eye is spherical, axial, cylindrical, and obviously there's a listening device which all of us know. And using AI from all the conversation, which could include personal also, the system knows how to extract the essence of the prescription and keep it ready. Then all that the optometrist does is goes, says confirm, it goes into the enterprise system. As simple as that. And like I said, we are rolling it out, but the customers who have seen it absolutely love it. Who wouldn't, right? So we are actually looking at voice itself as a way of accomplishing more and more, and just using these examples to just evangelize and say, now this use case has spawned other companion use cases in the same iCare store, saying ye kar sakte ho to ye bhi karo. And so now we are looking forward to whether the iCare store will be entirely ergonomic, no typing, just use your voice.
And it can go to multiple languages.
Why not?
So to add up why a technology adoption fails, so if we deep dive, since it might be triggering some friction, so that could be one of the major reason why people they don't want to. And there is some fear factor that technology will replace me. So if these fear factors are going to be there, then naturally there is a replacement thought that comes to employees or anyone for that matter. The third one is actually So talking about the training as well as other things, actually many technologies today that is available as a package software in a common Play Store or App Store are ready to use. The UX is great. When UX are great, then naturally the adoption will be there. So what we have done is in even a ERP transaction for that matter, we simplified so that only a bare minimum information will be keyed in. Otherwise, rest of the things are automatically determined. There is some sort of intelligence that have been brought in. Why this is required? Even in area where warehouse kind of an environment, where we are going to have some sort of contract people working on. So we cannot train them every day. So what we can do, only it matters as simple as such that in the language they understand, they have to key in the information. It might be 2 or 3 data points or data sets. That's it. The rest of the thing, the ERP devices on its own and then it does the transaction. So here the UI UX part is very much essential in any technology for that matter. So not only in the back-end operations, even in front-end operations, we understand why it should be a monotonous list of activities one person has to do. So we simplified and our UI screens, UI UX will be great so that the adoption will be there. And removing the friction. Why this friction comes that since we wouldn't have understood the business case properly, that's why these frictions are happening. And we simplified there. The third point is about less dependency. We don't want anyone to depend on other person, be it a service function or the relative other function members. We want to reduce that so that the actions happen quickly and then the employee can understand that the solution, technological solution, whatever we are having is promoting my activities. In a way, it is helping me to be highly productive. So that way that helps. The parallel paths, wherever we have the parallel paths or solutions, then technology will get defeated. So first point is we used to cut off that. So there is a forceful, enforced that they have to follow. That's it. And it's a top-down kind of a thing. The reviews happens through this technological medium. For example, one simple thing is we used to have MIS guys. It is available in many of the companies that they used to prepare the MIS for the reviews. Naturally, today analytical tools replaces them and you have automated means wherein on a click of a button you can see that what's going on downstream. So when we are having parallel paths, this will get defeated. So what we have done is we have given some value added work to these MIS executives so that they will become, they generate value and then systems are automated. There is an intelligence that have been brought in. And one more thing is mobile friendly. Today, whether whoever the case may be, we cannot ask them to use the laptops or a tablet kind of a thing. So all our systems are except the transactional systems, we have an aid to take it down through the mobiles. Whether it is approval process, whether it is some sort of a bit of alert, a bit of intelligence that we need to prompt, everything is mobile friendly. And this helps for quick adoption.
Absolutely.
So this helps. And finally, I was mentioning about the parallel paths. Still after implementation of the digital technologies, and if we continue, of course on some areas I have contradict that we have to continue for certain means. But wherever possible, we have to cut off the old methods so that people are forcefully, they have to adopt. So that way we are ensuring that the adoption is there and of course monitoring and review and incentivizing the people like identifying digital champions and then recognizing their effort and idea. So those who are bringing in for ideas, we are recognizing them, whatever the smaller the case, so that once the digitization happens, they will get recognized. That way it is indirectly influencing. The final part is inclusiveness. So we have to include that
issue. Yes, of course.
Otherwise it will get defeated.
I think your question was on millennials vis-a-vis, for example, a Gen Z. And I think both Ram and Krishnan have answered in a different way, which is what I think largely we are seeing. It's less about the generation that is entering the workforce that drives the technology. I mean, everybody is technologically savvy and I think they largely get it. But if you look into the answer of both of them, they are looking into personas. Based on the persona and based on the use, the technology is an enabler to a particular journey in removing friction points. So I think that is a summary of what we are seeing across. It is less of a Gen X or even a baby boomer thinking, I will not leverage technology, vis-a-vis a Gen Z thinking they want technology. Because I think that is largely taken care of. Democratization.
That
Yes,
broad issue is sorted.
Is absolutely solved. So then the question only is, okay, I have this problem. This is a user that is using a particular business flow, a use case, whatever it may be, and that user may belong to any kind of an age strata, if you will. And all you need to do is to make that journey frictionless and friction-free. And therefore, you start thinking about what kind of technology interventions are needed to make that journey a lot more easier. So I think that's where it gets to.
I'd like to come to you and Mandar, you, talking about security, because both sectors, financial services and healthcare, very touchy issue. How does the system ensure and the workforce ensure that tomorrow that issue is not happening at all?
I think it's a very, very important and critical point, honestly, and I don't think we are foolproof in any form. In our case, especially, there are different types of security challenges because we are, number one, our intellectual property, because we are working at such a cutting edge. Number two is the health data of patients that we have. So there's a lot of privacy issue over there. So any place where we leak data of this nature has now a very large impact.
It's a global impact.
Yeah. And especially with GDPR and other data privacy regulations coming in, the penalties are very, very high. So it is a very critical, and that is one of the key challenges. So technology, in my view, is an enabler as well as threat for this kind of a thing. So, which is why I was trying to say earlier also that we have to look at every such intervention in a more balanced manner. We have to take a measured approach, especially in our industry. We do adopt technology much slower than some of the B2C or some of the other industries. And that's primarily because of this security reason and also regulation. So, but I think in the recent past, whatever technology has come out, all of it is, in my view, much more secure than what was earlier. Like when cloud came first, maybe 10 years back, people were very, very skeptical about using cloud, putting their data on the cloud. But that's no longer an issue at all. So I think nowadays every new technology that comes up is designed for security. And that to a large extent takes care of some of the challenges that we have today. And that is why adoption is increasing significantly now.
You referred to GDPR, our own DPDP Act is, yes? Harish,
I'll come to that. For financial services, especially, like I think is rightly pointed out, there's health data, for example, in our health insurance, right? We have all the health records of every person who's gone through our system. Number two, we have financial data. For example, somebody who set up their UPI on a monthly repayment cycle, have the data of their card, etc., sitting along with us. So security is not driven by the agencies. It's not driven by the government. It's actually driven by the organization itself. And I want to make a point there before, and I'll cue in into this. How your workforce is organized internally reflects on how you serve your customers. I think that's a key, very deeper point that generally companies miss. I'll explain that. In a traditional setup where somebody went to the market, understood what is needed, comes back, writes down a specification, hands it over to the next person, who then specs it out and says, do 20 things, goes to an engineering cycle or product cycle or a build cycle, they build it, then goes to a tester who will test it. Then somebody says it's good enough, goes through a quality assurance process, and then probably goes into the market. This used to be year-long cycle, etc. This serves a different kind of a customers. Today's customers are not like that. Today, you don't know what works because your technology is reaching all the 6 billion people on one shot. Like when Google released their team meeting, a share option, it hits everybody using it at the same point in time, right? So how does consumers consume? And I'm giving into the simplicity in a question here. If it is simple, adoption is much faster. And that's what you want to do. You want your customers to understand your product, technology, could be services, etc. very simply, right? And he said that in his talk to say, look, some things can be forced, something naturally comes to people. If it naturally comes to people, people just use it. They could buy it, they could pay for it, doesn't matter, but they will use it, right? Your internal structures today have to be organized around that. Today's companies that disproportionately generate revenue out of the teams they have are organized around the consumer data points. Like I have a team today in which the owner of the product, the business unit P&L head, the engineer and the designer together work in one pod. There's no distinction between departments. We don't have departments in the company. We have teams or pods that are slightly amoeboic. Sometimes they expand if the impact is bigger, they shrink if the impact is smaller. Very amoeboic in nature, they expand and collapse, but they revolve all around what is needed to be served to that particular customer. This internal structure is extremely critical because it drives the kind of tools they use. Nobody in my team uses emails. Emails are only used by the manager to send, hey, I'm meeting you one-on-one tomorrow evening. That's it, right? Because it's a one-directional communication. These pods use, for example, as an example, we use Slack because there's a thread of conversation going around. Everybody is connected to a thread. So team structures, especially the workforce collaboration, today internally how you're structured. If you structure yourself in this organized manner, you're not serving your customer appropriately. Vice versa, the customer demands you be structured like this, right? And good companies do that, by the way, right? So at least internet companies are created in that fashion. Maybe it's a little bit different for manufacturing, I'm not really sure, but technology companies are created like that. This gives into the security concept. Is security a need that comes because it has to be secure? No, it is built into the product. So when we engineer products, one of the things we do, for example, hey, this product should work. It's a no-brainer. Should it be secure is also a no-brainer. So there are two ways to handle this, and the way we handle it is, we don't use technology as it comes to us. Meaning, if I take this, I don't use it as it is. I'm going to ensure that I wrap it in my security layer and then I try to use it. It could be a library, it could be a service, it could be a technology. We build what we call as embellishment layers of security on top of it that the engineers consume. So there are two kinds of engineering happening. One is infrastructure, platform level engineering as we call it. Second is when we build software, we ensure that it is built using this. So two layers of thinking, two layers of engineering, structuring the teams around, those spots, lack of a better word, so that they are serving that end purpose and not really, I'm going to build this way, it's up to you to consume, right? Because it do an A/B, for example, to say, let me put it like this. If my buy journey is 3 screens, tell me who you are, I'll tell you what I'm selling, buy. Versus saying, here is what I'm selling, who would want to buy it and buy? There are two variants. I don't know what works, right? I'm not a Buddha sitting around saying, Mere ko sab pata hai, right? I'm saying let the consumer determine what sells. You cannot structure this if you have a waterfall thinking. You cannot have somebody go to the market, survey 500 people and come back 300 people have said, I like this. Because that will change tomorrow morning. Why? Because Netflix changed their interface. Suddenly this guy's thinking is also changing. You have to react on that instance. So internal structures, specifically for workforce collaboration, have to mimic what you are solving. You have to embed security, you have to embed user experience, you have to embed something called as IA, right? Information architecture, everything into that single pod that serves it. Otherwise, you'll create a lot of inefficient systems and the market will tell you, they will not like your product, right? Or you're too slow, or somebody else will do it, somebody who's smarter will do it, right? So all these three trifecta together, have to sit in. So that's answering a part of it. And at ACKO, we don't look at security as, okay, DPTP aaga, ab kya karna hai? We say, okay, DPTP aa gaya, okay, now.
How do we stay ahead of it?
Yeah, and this is a cat and mouse game. Today you do something else, somebody will figure out another way to do this. This is like evading tax and creating more tax rules on top of it, right? It's exactly like that. Somebody tries to already do it, you'll do something else. Today you have 128-bit security, somebody will try to break it. So security again is a constantly thinking process, right? For example, you could start securing things at various store, like IP for example. It's very important that nobody can telnet into it and find it out, right? You have to build some physical barriers at times, for example. Right? Today where we store our cold storage as we call it, it's not accessible outside at all. Versus to say at storage, during transmission, when it is getting processed, when it is going over the wire, when it is in the app. So every layered systems have to have security built in. It is thought into the process, not baked in afterwards, if that's what you're asking, right? Again, like I said, it's constantly changing. Threat perceptions keep happening. You have to keep doing pen tests. You have to do monkey testing. Everything happens. There's a science behind it, right? And you have to keep up with that science. And you have to be ready. Something new will come in, and that
I love
just
the way
happens.
you're saying science behind it. Abhishek, would you like to end with the art that makes the collaboration possible and collaboration thrive?
Yeah, so I want to touch on a very important point, is data. Okay, data makes a lot of decision making easy versus making it very difficult, right? And I think this is something which most of the organizations today are thinking about, how to collect the right set of data, right? That's very important. Now, the ecosystem that we work, right, and he mentioned about technology. There are so many technology interfaces that we have today, right? Now, if those technology interfaces could give me the data, which could help me to make the right decisions tomorrow, right? So, say for example, what COVID has also taught us is that there are many organizations who are expanding, and there are many organizations who are shrinking or contracting also, which means their real estate decisions are dependent upon certain criterias. And the employee hiring, etc., are also to some extent ruled by that. But are organizations really prepared to understand or take those decisions that, do I need to contract or do I need to expand? How much more do I need to build? Is Bangalore okay for me as a place, or do I need to build satellite offices, for example, right? But the most important fact is that, where is the data? Is the technology giving back that data to me, is also something which is very important. Now, this means it becomes very pertinent that when I'm deploying technology, I should be able to take that data. The technology should be intelligent enough to give me that data back, so that I can make those decisions later on in terms of a very thought out manner, and it is not very impulsive, right? So I think that is something which is very, very important. I think many people touched about that. So I think data, the right amount of data and utilizing that data to take the right decisions is very important. Otherwise, it's all impulsive and we may go wrong.
Okay, I think we'll wrap up. Any other points that anyone has to make? So just thought I'll mention it that, I was reading somewhere about how companies will probably focus on measurable results, but there are some other factors, not just physical presence vis-a-vis, what yesterday could be, you have to be in the office 9 to 5. But today that decision is being enabled, I would imagine, with technology, and hence results come in, that data comes in. So thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of this conversation. If you can spend a couple of minutes here, I'll try and learn some of what is present, in case you can spend some time on what is possible, please. Thank you. Thank you for being with us.